Broadcasting to you on WNN 1470 AM and TrentoVision.tv from the world's leading think tank laboratory, buried deep in an undisclosed building in hostile territory where evil and corruption is exposed. You're about to enter the Tom Trento Show.
Now aboard, all hands back at battle station.
Tom Trento heads United West, a group that says it defends Western civilization against the onslaught of Islam.
Hello everybody and good afternoon. I am not Tom Trento. I am CJ, but you are watching TrentoVision, Tom Trento TV, and Tom is in Israel right now. And in his absence, we are the lunatics running the asylum without him. So I am CJ. We have with us in the studio today our producer Damon, and we have Invisible Mike doing some tricks over there. I can't quite see what he's doing. And we have a very special co-host in the studio with us today, one of your favorites, Peter Feaman.
Thank you,
Hi,
CJ.
Peter. And
Hello.
Peter is the National Committeeman representing the state of Florida to the Republican National Committee. And besides being an attorney and highly acclaimed successful author, we're going to have to talk about your book, Peter is here to tell us what the heck is happening in Washington. We are so lucky that we have you here during a government shutdown.
There's a lot to tell.
There's a lot to tell about, and we will get to that in just a few minutes because we have a very special dispatch from Tom Trento in Israel, and he's here to tell us what's going on over there.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
Go.
we'll tell you some more stuff when we get
Damon,
back.
CJ, Peter Feaman. This is Tom and Mark live from Israel on Thursday, October 3rd. Right now we are, and you're looking at a beautiful shot behind us. It's nighttime. We're on the Sea of Galilee. The Sea of Galilee. And a quick geography lesson, if you look at a map of Israel, there are two seas, two big lakes, one up north and one down south. The one down south is the Salt Sea, or better known as the Dead Sea. The one up north is the Sea of Galilee, where we are right now up in the north, and they are connected by the Jordan River. How's everything going on in Florida, Damon?
Things are going pretty well. Not as well as they are in Israel.
We have been following your exploits at Florida Atlantic University with Students for Justice in Palestine, wherever that it may be. Too bad we're not there during this bizarre week, but the campus is in good hands with you. We saw the video that you did, and you need to show that to everybody if they haven't seen it yet. We're going to show it to all of our folks on this briefing here, where you confronted one of the Students for Justice in Palestine and asked him to point out Israel on the map of Israel, and he said, well, it isn't there. That was beautiful work, and let me tell you, we took a boat ride leaving from a place on the Sea of Galilee this morning, went north up toward toward Lebanon, actually, and on that ride, Ron Wexler, our tour guide, who was in the 67 war and the Yom Kippur War in 73, gave us a first-hand understanding of his fighting in those two wars, and those wars secured more land for Israel. And we were going today to look at some of that land in the Golan Heights. And then Frank Gaffney spoke afterwards, and we will have a beautiful documentary on the 67 and 73 war as it impacts the national security concerns for Israel. So we took our boat ride this morning on the Sea of Galilee, went up to a port in Capernaum. And for all you Christians out there, Capernaum was the main area where Jesus Christ did all of his ministry, much of his ministry. And we were at the synagogue where Jesus taught, and then a synagogue was built on that. This is all, first century architecture. We walked around the little village of Capernaum. We looked at Peter's house, the Apostle Peter. Then it became a church, and right now the Franciscans, the Catholic priests, built a large church over this. And the architect, how was that architecture and all of that, Mark, today? It was really a mind-blowing experience. And some of the places in Israel, like we were at the Jordan River yesterday, and people were getting baptized there, Christians. And, the legend is that may be where Jesus is, but the better archaeological information is for the Jordan River. He was a few miles away. Well, today, archaeologists, historians, theologians all agree Capernaum, which is Capernaum, is where Jesus spent quite a bit of his ministry. And it's right on the coast of the Sea of Galilee, just absolutely phenomenally beautiful. And we will bring you we shot a lot of footage. From there, we went up to, did we go to the base at that point? I think we did. These days are so full. We went to a IDF military base on the border, the northern border of Lebanon. Not only did we go on the base, we went in their mortar firing. This is a very interesting briefing we've been on. We went in one of their vehicles, APC, with a gigantic mortar tube, automated mortar tube, pointed right over the fence. We were maybe 100 yards from the border of Lebanon. And we got a first-hand tour, and we're going to bring you footage that we can show you. And we had to shut the cameras off a couple of times in sensitive areas. But we were with the IDF today on the northern border of Israel, the border of Lebanon, and getting a good understanding of the issue with Hezbollah. This is where Hezbollah operates. From there, we went to a kibbutz, a little further north, closer to the border of Lebanon, like from here to there, okay? 10 meters away. The fence is there, and the other side of the fence is Lebanon, and not only Lebanon, southern Lebanon, run by Hezbollah. And you are not going to believe the interviews and footage we will show you. Right now, we're just doing a very quick briefing for CJ, Peter, and Damon to share with all of our folks on Thursday show, 5 p.m. But we're gonna bring you extended video coverage of everything I'm talking about right now. From there, we continued northeast and went to the border of Syria. We were on the border of Syria today, and we heard explosions, which was very, very bizarre. And we have great footage from the border of Syria. But today's briefing on national security concerns for Israel was very simple. The Area 1 in the 67 war and the 73 war is absolutely essential, fundamentally critical to the national security of this unbelievably productive, fruitful, vital country, Israel. For anybody in the United States to say, oh no, they have to give the Golan Heights, and the stupid president of the United States that said, we've got to go back to the 67, it is insane. It's insane. When you're standing there and say, okay, all this land goes to the bad guys so they can look down on you and kill everybody driving on the street, and you go, that's a good public policy, national security decision for America's closest ally fighting Islamic jihad. Insane. It's absolutely insane. And you won't hear that just from us. We have individuals who will who are credentialed individuals. How about fighting in 4 wars? IDF paratrooper who will tell you exactly what he thinks about U.S. policy and the concern he has for Hezbollah and other enemies of Israel. From there, we went to a forward operating base on a hilltop right now overlooking Syria. And once again, and we looked at a base where the eyes of Israel are watching Syria. And we have all this footage for you. So it was an amazing day. Tonight we have a briefing from one of the experts on national security for Israel. We're headed there in a little bit, a late briefing. But any questions or any concerns you have, Damon?
That sounds like about the most incredible day. That sounds like you did about a month's worth of stuff in a day.
It really was. I mean, to literally, and I'm a Christian, to literally be standing where Jesus was teaching was pretty cool.
The connection got a little bad for a second there. It'll come back.
Okay.
But then, in terms of the border of Lebanon, and then an hour later on the border of Syria, and to examine the geography, the critical geographical strategic position for the security of this country with all these enemies that want to kill them. What a day. Amazing day. Mark, any thoughts? Come on, let's switch. Yeah, you come over here.
Put beefcake on.
Pretty interesting day for a place that doesn't exist, as was shown on your video from FAU.
All right, well, I want you guys to stay safe. Continue to have a great time. Tell Mr. Gaffney and everyone in the United West says hello. Tell our other friends that we say hello. Stay safe. Have a great time. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, you guys doing a great job back there. And God bless all of you. We'll see you. And God bless Israel. Yeah. Live from Israel. Tom and Mark. See you later.
Oh my gosh, that's absolutely incredible.
Tom
Trento and J. Mark Campbell representing the United West and TrentoVision in Israel. Absolutely amazing. It is 13 minutes after the hour, and you are watching TrentoVision and listening to TrentoVision on WNN 1470 AM. We are broadcasting out of Boca Raton, Florida, and you can hear us on the radio from Miami all the way up to Orlando. You can also listen to us on iHeartRadio. That's a free app you can get for your smartphone or other smart device. You can watch us on TrentoVision.tv. You can watch our archives at youtube.com/TheUnitedWest. If you're listening to us while you're on your way home to work and you say to yourself, gee, I'd really like to see that video, just go to youtube.com/TheUnitedWest and you can click on any one of the thumbnails to access the archives. You can also access us through the teapartycommunity.com. Hello, Tea Party Community, everybody. And also Bare Naked Islam. Bonnie's doing a great job over there. And if you visit Bare Naked Islam today, you will see almost at the top of the page a very interesting video that was alluded to by Tom. And that video is a little geography lesson that some students at Florida Atlantic University, a taxpayer-funded institution, by the way, gave our producer, Damon Rosen, as they were celebrating their Hate Israel and Those Damn Zionists week over at FAU.
2 minutes if you guys want to watch it.
Yeah,
sure.
I absolutely want to see that again.
Want to
So
see it?
yeah.
All
If we
right,
could just
let's
take a
cue it
minute,
up.
let's roll that video. This is students at FAU giving us a geography
Students
lesson.
for Justice in Palestine.
Yeah.
And this is in Boca Raton, Florida. Heavily Jewish area.
Yeah.
Yesterday
Correct.
morning. Yesterday morning.
More tolerance on display.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look at this. End the occupation. No Americans allowed. Occupy APAC.
A minute ago, you just said that there should be no Israel left.
No, I think they should give it back to the Palestinians.
What part? You said that this part right here should be given to the Palestinians.
Why is this highlighted? Let me ask you, why is this highlighted?
So
Why?
Why is this
gray?
highlighted?
Why is this gray?
diaspora?
You tell me why that's
No, I'm
gray.
asking you, why is this
I asked
gray?
you that you said that all of these lands should be given back to the Palestinians.
Yeah.
And then I asked you, well, what would be left of Israel? And you said, well, there's no reason for there to be anything left of Israel.
This was Palestine before it became Israel.
And here's the history.
Yeah. This was Palestine before.
Where's the history?
Palestine, and then Israel starts, and now it's all Israel. And this little tiny bit here is Palestine.
It's like how the Native Americans out of all this land that we live on right now.
So what should be left of Israel? Point on the map what should be left of Israel.
Let's see. Well, no, in my opinion, this is all Palestine.
Okay,
This is all
so it's all Palestine.
But
Should there
the
be an Israel?
The Israelis live on Palestinian land.
Okay, the Israeli lives on
Yeah.
Palestine. Were there Jewish people in this land before there were, quote, Palestinians? Were there Jewish people on those lands?
I don't know. What's the history?
I'm asking you. Do you not believe that Jerusalem is part of Israel?
Listen, because I'm looking at it from a fairness point.
A fairness point of view. So point on the map what should be left of Israel.
I can't. The map's too small.
The map's too small, so Israel should be big.
No, Israel. No, wait. This isn't a map of Israel, though. This is a map of Palestine.
That's a map. So there is no Israel.
Not in my opinion, no.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
Tolerance on display at
Yeah,
our institution of higher
I guess
learning.
Tom Trento, who just gave his report from Israel, needs to be corrected and reinformed.
Wow.
I sent him an email after I put this together last night, and I said, Tom, you're busted. You're not really in Israel.
You're not really
You've
in
been fooling
Israel.
us.
You've been tricking us all this time. Oh my goodness.
So it's
Absolutely
not hate
outrageous.
speech to talk about the fact that you want to do away with Israel? I mean, that sounds like hate speech to me.
No.
You see, what you don't understand, and actually what you should understand, because you've written a couple of books about it, okay, is if you say that you hate Israel and you hate Zionists and you want to throw the Jews into the sea, that's not hate speech.
That's okay.
If you quote from the Quran and say this is what the Quran says and you're not a Muslim, that's hate speech.
I get it. Okay, so it's the double standard again? Is that what we're dealing with?
It's a triple standard.
Okay.
It's a triple standard.
Well, here on TrentoVision, we believe in free speech. So let's go.
So now you're going to have your pitch for freely
So
speaking.
let's go.
So why don't you freely speak to us, Peter? Tell us what you're up to.
Well, I think the question of the day, of course, is the government shutdown.
Okay.
What's happening in Washington and why?
Okay. All right.
And to me, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
The Democrats and the president won't negotiate.
Won't negotiate what?
Won't negotiate anything. It's either their way or the highway. And then somehow the president gets on TV today and says that he is bent over backwards to accommodate the Republicans. That's absolute
I've seen him
poppycock.
bend over backwards, but it's usually to bow to a foreign king or prince or head of state.
No,
and
that was bending over
absolutely-
forwards.
Oh, okay.
But for him to say that they've been over backwards, they have not made one counter proposal to the Republicans in the House, and yet the Republicans in the House keep coming up with compromise after compromise after compromise, and yet no response. They just keep saying, you fund the government in full or we're not talking to you.
Well, let me ask you this. What is it that they need to compromise about? Where
Well, I'll give you a few examples. The first compromise crafted Sunday night by the Republicans in the House.
Well, why is there a question in the first place about the funding of the government? Why is this even in question? Isn't it a given that the government gets funded?
No, you have to pass a budget. But the Democrats in the Senate haven't passed the budget for 5 years.
Okay, but we've been running the government anyway during this time, so
Correct.
why
What's
this
called-
time do we shut down?
Good question. It's called continuing resolutions.
And what is
And
that?
the fiscal year of each of the government
Right.
starts October 1st.
Okay.
So that's how we get to where we are right now, because the Senate won't pass a budget. They just want to pass a continuing resolution to keep funding the government without making spending priorities, without making budget decisions. If you ran your house or your corporation like that, you'd be in bankruptcy. Oh, wait.
Oh, like the DNC?
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wait, we
aren't
are in bankruptcy.
Aren't we like 17 or 18 trillion dollars in bankruptcy?
Yeah, we have not only that, but look at, I'm glad you mentioned that. Our producer shouts
Damon.
out,
Yeah.
Damon says, oh, just like the Democrat Party. That's true, they're
Yeah,
in
they
debt
are.
too.
Yeah.
Wait a
yeah.
minute, I have
That's
it here
because they're
somewhere.
hiding their money.
Hold on.
You mean this lady can't run a budget?
Here it is.
Oh, Debbie
Eight-
Wasserman Schultz.
She runs the DNC just like she votes in the House of Representatives. $18.2 million in debt is the Democrat Party just from 2012.
Okay, well, let's not get sidetracked about
sorry.
you
You're
know
right.
their own internal bookkeeping, because
That's
we're
correct.
talking about the federal government.
Yes.
The Democrats clearly are holding the whole country hostage
They are.
to their own
And
shenanigans.
it's bizarre.
And this whole thing about the continuing resolution, it looks to me like it came about because Obamacare is supposed to kick in.
That's one of the things.
And the Republicans do not want this rollout until there's some kind of review glitches in the system, everything else. The president's been signing executive orders giving
The only glitches is because people are so excited they're overwhelming the system. Those are the only glitches.
Giving free passes to his friends, allies, and cronies to exempt themselves from the taxes of Obamacare, which the rest of us have to start paying even though we don't get any benefits from it. And the Republicans said, you know what? Let's slow this down a little bit. Let's take a step back for a year and see what it is that we're actually doing before we start taxing and funding this program, which is not ready to be rolled out anyway.
Correct.
And the Democrats are saying, if you don't fund this, nothing's getting funded.
No soup for you.
And that's why the government shut down.
That's correct.
And then they're portraying it as the Republicans are stopping our benevolent government programs from taking place. So
they're keeping veterans out of monuments.
They're holding up checks on purpose, which there's no reason for them to do. They're closing national parks and monuments, which there's no reason for them to do, because it's so visible to people.
Right. Correct. Let's talk about that for a second.
So,
and by the way,
explain all
CJ,
that.
you're very eloquent, CJ, and I think we ought to run you for National Committee Woman. What do you think?
No.
Yeah, it's very good. Well, at any
thank
rate,
you.
Hey,
what happened at the World War II Memorial in Washington is disgraceful.
Yeah.
Because
that was almost entirely
for any of your viewers and listeners who have ever been there, it's just an open walk-in monument. So it doesn't take any personnel to attend it or oversee it. And yet, to make a show of somehow how this government shutdown is so bad, the park police went and put barricades in front of it, only for show.
By the way, that World War II monument that you're talking about, that was almost entirely built by private funds.
That's correct.
And then the government came in and said, "Oh, well, that belongs to us now."
That's correct.
You didn't build that.
Tom Hanks, we owe a great debt of gratitude to Tom Hanks.
Yeah, we do.
But anyway, so the RNC has stepped up because they do not have $18 million of debt like the DNC has. In fact, they have $12 million cash on hand.
Okay, well, you don't need to be bragging about that because
they
need to put that to good use.
Okay, they stepped up and they said, guess what? We'll pay whatever it takes to keep that monument open. We'll pay whatever it takes to keep any park or monument dedicated to our veterans open.
Okay.
And so then Speaker Boehner put that in his bill, sent that over to the Senate. Guess what?
Which they also won't look at.
Rejected, out of hand.
Right.
No,
well, because then
amazing.
they would actually have to show that it's how much does it cost? They would actually have to explain what it is that they had to shut down to begin with, which they can't do.
They can't.
If you're cooking the books and somebody says, all we need you to do is show us the budget for this and then we'll give you the money, and they don't show you the budget for it so that you can give them the money, you could bet that they're running a scam.
Well, imagine that I went home and my wife says to me, I'm concerned about the amount of money that we're spending. Can you show me the charge account, the Visa bill?
Right.
And I said, no, I can't show you that. How do you think my wife would react?
Oh, in all kinds of ways, not good.
Not pretty, and in ways I can't disclose on this type of family show.
Right.
But at any rate, the Republicans keep saying, let's look at the bills, let's pay what we need to. Nope. And in fact, Obama got elected on changing Washington.
Well,
remember?
He did.
Adding to the discourse, wanting everybody to get along.
Yeah.
And he just shuts down. They won't talk. Harry Reid, they're I don't know how else to say it.
He did change America.
No, he did change Washington.
No, he changed America, all right.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's
that might
not
be a little
right.
over the top.
Yeah, that's not right.
I don't know. But at any rate, here's a man that people put their faith in to change the discourse in Washington, to have a more civil tone, to have honest debates, And what did we get? We got just the opposite. No debate. In fact, do you hear some of the rhetoric by the Democrats in Congress today? You know what they called Republicans?
Oh, jihadis.
Especially on this show. That ought to ring a bell.
Jihadis.
Let me tell you something. I do not appreciate them calling a filthy, filthy politician a jihadist. That is very insulting to the word jihadist.
I thought we weren't going to let him call in to
I
this
don't know.
show
When
I'm not calling. I work here, Peter.
Yeah, when you
I
say...
could not come yesterday because we had the Vons here, and I am very much afraid
you
of
should be
Billy
very
Vaughn.
much afraid of them.
Very much
but
afraid of the Billy Vaughn.
When you
do
say
not scare me.
jihad,
Yes.
when you say jihad, you got to have the Imam Abdullah.
That's
I
true.
fool you, you fools.
You do not scare me.
We
Peter.
respect your opinion. We just respectfully disagree. But listen, this is how
We
crazy.
don't respect his opinion.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Well, you know, we respect everybody's opinion. They can't help the fact that they're just so ignorant.
Careful.
But here's the thing. This is how crazy it's gotten in Washington. They call Republicans jihadists, and yet Major Nadal Hassan, who performed an act of terrorism and murdered 13 people in Fort Hood, they call that workplace violence.
violence.
So the Republicans are jihadists, and Major Hassan is
Right.
engaged in workplace violence. This is
That's
crazy.
absolutely. It's completely.
This is bizarro world.
It's upside down. It's out of whack. It's like we've all fallen down through the rabbit hole, and we're living in a world where the furniture is the wrong
Correct.
size. I don't even recognize this country
Right.
from this country 10 years ago.
And by the way, let's talk about the effects of the shutdown. Remember the gloom and doom that everybody talked about if we don't go along with the demands of the Democrats and just pass a continuing resolution and fund everything?
Right.
Well, what if they gave a shutdown and nobody came?
Yeah.
Because that's what's happened. Life is going on. It's really not that bad yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it may be, but that's why the Republicans want to pass bills to fund certain essential things,
Right.
like the National Institute of Health, so we
Right.
can continue to research
Okay.
for children's diseases and that
Okay.
sort of thing.
Okay.
Funding the parks.
Right.
Democrats' response? No. They accuse
Right.
the Republicans of being the party of the no? No.
Right, right.
They're just sitting up on the Hill on the Senate side saying no, no,
No.
no. That's no way to run a government. It's give and take. It's a two-way street. Half the Congress is controlled by Republicans. Republicans are willing to compromise. Democrats won't.
Well,
hear
wait a
it.
minute, wait a minute. When you say Republicans are willing to compromise, what is it exactly that they're willing to compromise on?
They want to fund necessary programs in the government
well,
until
how
we
is that a
can.
compromise? That's not a compromise. That's common sense.
Well, you'll have to tell that to Senator Reid and Dick Durbin and Schumer and Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein.
And why is it that that nobody in the media is even closely reporting the truth of this? You'll see stories about veterans in wheelchairs pulling up to national parks and getting turned away.
Right.
Families not being able to visit their loved ones in cemeteries and
Correct.
things like this. Elderly citizens worried about not being able to get their prescriptions filled and all this kind of nonsense.
Well-
And why is that? That's because the evil Republicans have shut down the government.
There's no doubt that if it can't be George Bush's fault, they're not going to cover it. And so that's what's going on here.
Well, how come
here's
the
the thing.
Republicans
That's
are not
why,
getting their
That's why
message
this
out?
show is so important. Shows like TrentoVision, Fox News, others.
TrentoVision
Okay.
and Fox News.
That's right.
All right.
They get the truth out because we have a terrible dearth of truth in our culture today. And as everybody knows this, though, it's as obvious as the hand in front of your face.
Well, no, it's
the
not.
mainstream media is in the tank
No.
for progressives, for the
No.
Democrats, and for
See,
Obama.
Here's where you're wrong, because when you say
Again?
Unfortunately, when you
Okay.
say everybody knows this,
Right.
everybody who watches and listens to this show probably knows this.
Right.
But unfortunately, this is a minority in the country right now.
Okay.
And most people, they get the local newspaper. If they live in South Florida, maybe they get the Sun Sentinel or the Palm Beach Post, and And, you know, maybe on the weekend they get the
Right.
New York Times and they watch NBC News or ABC News at supper time.
All right.
And they
You're
think
right.
they're very informed. Maybe they read Time Magazine or something like that. They think they're up to date.
Right. All right. Well,
And
here's
they
a
know
good
what's
example.
going on, and they're in this bubble
Yeah,
of
that's true.
unreality that creeps up over time. How do we penetrate
Well,
that?
you know, I talked over you. I apologize for that. You asked the question, how come the Republican Party's not getting the message out?
Yeah.
And they're trying, but here's one victory we just had.
Okay.
About a month ago, Reince Priebus said to CNN
Okay,
and
and Reince
NBC.
Priebus is?
Oh, sorry. He's the chairman of the Republican Party
Okay.
nationally in
All right.
Washington. The man that I answer to, if you will.
Okay.
All right.
Does he listen
And
to you?
he does.
Oh, good. Okay.
He does.
I feel better about life now.
We passed, for example, we passed a resolution opposing Common Core at the RNC, but that's
Oh,
a different
good.
discussion.
Okay.
But anyway, he found out that CNN and NBC were going to air a docudrama about Hillary Clinton's life as a run-up to her race for the presidency of the United States. And he knew this was nothing but
It's a commercial for her.
commercial for her. So here's what he said. He said, you air that. He said, we are going to boycott CNN and we're going to boycott NBC because it'd be nothing more than a puff piece for a presidential candidate.
Well, wait a minute. How can the RNC boycott?
Right.
How do they boycott a news station?
In the election, when we have debates between Republican candidates,
Uh-huh.
we won't give a license to CNN or NBC to air
to
it.
report them.
We won't give them a license to air it, and we won't have any debates on their networks. And we'll just shut them out. We won't let them cover the convention, for example, and
Okay.
shut them out.
Well, they don't cover it anyway when they cover it,
Well,
or
they-
when they do, they just lie about it. So maybe that's a good thing
You're
if
pretty
they're,
good.
if they're not covering
I'm
it.
still considering you for National Committee woman. You're good. You're very good. So anyway, here's the good news.
Okay.
Just yesterday, CNN announced that they were pulling the docudrama about Hillary Clinton, and they're not going to air it at all.
And NBC, CNN and NBC both
NBC
pulled it.
now
Yeah.
too.
CNN and
Okay.
NBC cancel Hillary Clinton documentary
There you go.
amid controversy.
Correct. And so that's a victory. That's a victory for a man, Reince Priebus, who wants to stand up for principles. Ted Cruz, another victory for a man who stands up on principles. Now, he may not have won his battle,
Right.
okay, but I think he represents a new and bolder Republican Party that's on the way.
What do you mean? Not this guy?
That guy.
Oh no.
You know, that's a little strong. However,
It's true. It's
Listen,
true. It's
Okay.
John McCain. For the radio audience, I just put up a picture of John McCain beneath a flag that says, I support terrorists.
Yes.
And if you understand his position and who he wants to back in Syria, that statement
And
is
who
100%
he wants to back
correct.
in Egypt, and who he just hired for his Washington office.
correct. But listen,
But we don't
Fred,
want to talk about John McCain, but
I want to just say
you
that
just want to say nice
we
stuff.
respect the service that John McCain provided
Yeah.
to this country.
Um,
We will
absolutely
always, let me
we
finish
do.
this is important because that
Because we
graphic
don't want to
that
get you
showed
in
of him.
trouble. Yeah.
However, I don't think Mr. McCain is in touch anymore with the American people, and he needs to, I think, be less vocal in his opinions and give way to some of the more younger members of the United States Senate who more properly and accurately represent how America thinks.
Oh.
And that's what I'll
okay.
say about John McCain.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
I'd be in favor. I'd be in favor of hearing less of John
Right.
McCain. I have to say that if you watch all the Sunday morning news channels, he'll be on like 5 shows
Right.
every Sunday
Do you
morning.
know why that is?
Why that is because he's not representative of the Republican Party, and that's why
correct.
all the networks want to have him on.
That's
so they
exactly
can
correct.
say in the lower third, John McCain are
Correct.
from the United States Senate
That's
when
correct.
he is not representative of what the Republican Party is about at all
That's
anymore.
exactly correct.
He has his worldview that does not connect
Okay.
at all with the views of Americans or of you know, unfortunately, if we're talking about the Middle East, of what the reality
Correct.
on the ground is.
So, CJ
Yeah.
for National Committeewoman
No.
from the state
Yeah.
of Florida. Still all
No.
over. That might have been. Hold on.
Sorry, I think I just blew
Yikes.
everyone's ears out. I got
That
excited.
was
Uh-oh.
very exciting.
Ouch.
So,
Usually I do that because I
So.
laugh too loud.
right.
I got excited for you, CJ.
You did.
Peter's really, I mean, you're pretty serious about this, it sounds.
Yes,
No,
I am
no,
very serious
he's
about
not.
it. She is able to articulate how a lot of Republicans feel.
Yeah.
And that's very
The
important.
new Republicans,
The new
which would be
But I
the
have to
old,
tell-
old Republicans.
See, but
Well,
this is
I have
not
to
the
tell
first
you.
time.
I have to tell you though, when we talk about the new Republicans, they're getting grilled and skewered and shut up and slapped down
By
by
their
the
own
old
people.
guard of
Right.
the Republican Party. The Republican
right.
Party, you know, it's kind of hard because you represent Florida to the
Republicans.
Republican Party, okay? But there's a difference between the political elites of the Republican Party and the actual Republicans,
Correct, the grassroots.
the grassroots
as we
people
say.
and the voters,
That's
the
correct.
Republican voters. There's a huge difference. And I think that
Right.
the leadership of this party is old.
Well, you have
Okay,
to
they're
parse
the
that
old
out.
guard. They're the old guard.
Well, wait a minute. When you say leadership, because there's lots of facets to
Right.
that leadership.
Right.
There's Reince Priebus, the Republican National Committee chairman. He
Right.
gets it.
Right.
He's a young man. I think he's in his early 40s. He gets it. He really does.
Right.
Then there's the old guard. You know,
Right.
Senator McCain is one. Mitch McConnell. But
Yeah.
then there's a lot of young Turks in the House
Yeah,
of
but
Representatives
then you get like the masterminds
that are there.
The
new.
mastermind thinkers of the party. You know, the Karl Rove and
Right.
and the people behind.
Why does Karl
got you.
Rove get
the
airtime
people,
anymore?
And the people behind
You know,
him.
we can't control that. We don't control the media.
No, I'm just saying.
No.
They control a lot of the money that's brought into the party.
They control PAC money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but
so
that doesn't
they
come
have
into
a
the
lot
party.
to do with controlling, like the message in an election cycle or something like that,
Does-
of putting pressure and directing how the money is being spent. And these people come out and publicly attack the up and coming people of the Republican Party because they're more conservative.
Correct.
You know, you've got these big tent Republicans, and then you have these conservative Republicans who want to bring back responsible government and leadership, and that's very different within the party. You mentioned Common Core, and the RNC not supporting Common Core, but one of the biggest players in the Republican Party is solidly behind it in the form of Jeb Bush.
Correct.
So that's what I'm talking
But
about.
that's correct. But this debate is not new. Let's go back
It's
to
just more open, maybe.
twice in the 1960s. We had Barry Goldwater versus the Rockefeller wing of the party.
Right.
That was the beginning of the conservative rebirth of the Republican Party. Now Goldwater lost, but he gave birth to the likes of Ronald Reagan, William F. Buckley, and some of the thinkers for conservatism. And then that fight came back in 1976. A lot of viewers and listeners might remember, if you're a little long in the tooth like I am, that there is actually
What happened in
a Republican.
1976?
There was actually, I know you weren't even gleaming your
Jimmy
father's
Carter
eyes,
happened in 1976.
Yeah,
Well,
you
no,
wanna
but
know
we're
why?
talking about why, because we
I'll
had
tell you
Gerald
why.
Ford, didn't we?
Gerald Ford was the president, but he picked up a primary opponent as a sitting president. You know who that was? Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, just like Ted Cruz today, dared challenge the Republican establishment.
That's right.
Now, he lost in 1976.
But he came back good.
Came back in
didn't he?
1980 and changed the course of human history. Now,
Yeah.
am I saying Ted Cruz is the next Ronald Reagan? No, but he represents that battle once again, that if conservatives prevail, we're going to again bring back the country.
Okay. Well, that's why everybody's attacking him so hard and so fast. Not just the media, not
Correct.
just the Democrats. It's traditional Republicans. Status quo Republicans.
There you go. I like status quo.
Status quo Republicans.
I can make the
are
argument
going
that-
after him publicly in a way that is extremely distasteful.
Yes, it is.
You do not see in the Democrat Party, I don't know what they do behind the scenes, but
Yes.
publicly they do not eat their own.
That's correct.
And the Republicans do, and I think that's to their detriment. They got to get their act together behind the scenes, put together a solid, this is who we are, what we stand for. We are commonly united here. This is who we are. Behind the scenes, go fight, squabble, do whatever you want, but keep it to yourselves. Don't leak your conversations to the media. Don't leak your emails to the media like they've been doing. It's really quite disgusting.
The Democrats had a nice case of that yesterday,
because
didn't
what
they?
what happens is everybody takes a look at that, not just Republicans, but independents take a look at that and say, do I want to associate with that?
Correct. What happens when mom and dad fight? Okay, the kids get disaffected, disenchanted, and rebellious.
Yeah.
What happens when Republican senators fight against each other?
Yeah.
Independents and other Republicans want to leave the party. They want nothing to do with it.
Right.
We need to be united at the top if we're going to
Right.
bring everybody in with us.
Right.
So
When they
you're right.
talk about this whole big tent thing, how about the big tent that includes all views within the Republican Party?
Correct.
So that conservatives, and you can, I call them conservatives. Other people say, oh, it's just Tea Party wackos or whatever, but that's not apt.
That's not
okay,
apt.
and that's a way to turn off the people who are really, really going to be the boots on the ground for the midterms.
Notice how often the Democrats refer to the conservatives as the Tea Party people,
Yeah.
trying to marginalize the
Right.
conservative wing of the
Right.
party.
Right.
That's their strategy.
Yeah, and the reason why they do it is because they were absolutely so successful in 2008 of look what they did to Sarah Palin.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
all she did was stand up there and say, I'm a patriotic American. I love this country. I love Israel. I love my children.
Right.
I don't want to abort them. I don't want anybody else telling me that I have to.
Right.
And what did they do to her?
They vilified her.
They
Crucified
my gosh,
her?
they
No, that'd be a bad
that
We did that already.
that isn't even close.
Read this. This is
There you go.
Democratic Rep. Andre Carson from Indiana, one of the Islamic members of the House, and it's a cartoon coming out of his mouth, and it's a real quote. Some of them in Congress right now with this Tea Party movement would love to see you and me hanging on a tree. Remember when he said that last year?
That
Oh
kind
my
of rhetoric
gosh.
is.
Oh my gosh.
And
yeah.
he's also an
That is-
African American.
That is
because
disgraceful.
because that's who we are, right? We lynch people. We're
Yeah.
we're Nazis. We're
Let's see.
racist lynchers.
Racist. We want dirty water.
Racist, Islamophobic, homophobic, misogynistic.
Misogyn. Now I have to ask
Islamophobic.
you.
Did you say Islamophobic?
I said Islamophobic.
Okay, just
I said
checking.
it right off. I
Oh,
think.
just checking.
Yeah, that comes right off.
Speaking of Islamophobia,
Yeah.
I've written 2 books about that.
I know you have, and they're splendid.
have.
Tell us about them real quick.
Well, the most recent one that's actually still in print.
Okay.
I think you can get
The other
used
one
co-
sold out.
Yeah, it did, but they're on Amazon.com, and you can get Wake Up America. But the newer one is called The Next Nightmare, and The Next Nightmare is right here. Talks about political correctness and how political correctness is going to allow radical Islam to destroy this country.
Oh my gosh.
What are you
And
talking about?
You
Yeah,
wrote
there you
this.
go.
You wrote this book what, 2 years ago?
A year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago. Okay, and it's called The Next Nightmare, and this is
It's
actually
up on the screen right
It
now.
actually
This is
depicts a
the
made-up,
current.
yeah,
Yeah,
depicts
it's
a
supposed to-
made-up scenario about the destruction of the United States if
Yeah.
President Obama got reelected.
Yeah.
And he's gotten reelected, and based upon what I see happening, unfortunately, I'm afraid that my book, I hope not, may be prophetic. Let's hope that's not true. But we talk about political correctness.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned this earlier in our show, how Major Nidal Hassan murdered everybody in the name of jihad in Fort Hood.
Right.
And they call it workplace violence.
Right.
You know what that does? That just encourages other jihadists to go out there and murder people.
I find it insulting as a jihad supporter that they would call this workplace violence. Please, give us our due.
Yes, and in fact, Major Nidal Hassan wanted to call it terrorism, and they wouldn't let him.
And they wouldn't let him.
And they wouldn't let the prosecutors refer to it.
It could affect his sentencing.
Yeah. Well, here's why it's so important.
And what was the sentence?
Here's the thing. If you call it workplace violence, then the government doesn't have to pay the survivors of those murdered
Yeah, but that's not why
benefits.
they do it. That's not why they
It's
do it.
part of it.
Yeah,
It's
is
No,
disgraceful.
no. Since when is the
You'd
government looking to save a dime on anything?
This.
All right, CJ, you're
sorry.
right again.
Since
CJ for National Committee
2009,
woman.
there are no jihadists.
That's right. According
right.
There are
That's
no
right.
Islamic.
There is, however, a tooth fairy.
There are no Islamic extremists. There is no jihad.
That's right. No
Thank
jihad.
you,
Just
thank you, FBI,
Right.
and thank you for taking your talking points straight from CARE.
That's correct.
Right. That's right. And there were no soldiers shot at the Army recruiting station in Little Rock. That
Right.
was just a drive-by shooting.
That's
Oh,
correct.
Bledsoe.
And the Boston bombing was
That-
people
well, I
against
guess that
long
was
distance.
fun.
That was a
Place
sports.
violence,
That was sports
right?
related
Yes.
injury. That was
That
a
was-
sports
that was-
sports related.
That was done by the PLADR, People Against Long Distance Runners.
Yes.
Very
yes,
violent
yes,
outfit.
Yes. It was a sporting accident. That
violent
is all.
outfit,
Sports
yes.
injuries happen all the time.
Okay. Actually, speaking of violent outfits, you know, I'm a member of PETA.
No, you're not.
I am. People Eating Tasty Animals.
Oh, hey, you.
that was
Speaking
so
of, I
good.
thought you were going to bring in a little something today.
What? And that I can't
You
discuss.
told me you were going to bring in.
Did. But I got caught at the office longer than I wanted to, and so
You actually work, don't you?
I do. National
Yeah. How do you
Committeeman.
actually support yourself?
Yeah,
because
see-
I know you don't get paid as the National Committeeman.
You do not get paid, and
Yeah.
so I still have my law practice that
Uh-huh.
I tend to in Boynton Beach.
Okay.
I know this is being broadcast from an undisclosed location, so I can't
Correct.
discuss whether I drove here, took a train,
Planes,
took a
trains, and
plane.
automobiles.
Right, and I can't disclose how long it took me to get here from my office.
Can you disclose that we have about 10 minutes left in this hour?
Is that all?
Yeah, on
Time flies when you're having
WNN
fun.
1470 AM.
Okay.
You're listening to TrentoVision. We have Peter Feaman,
That's it. Thank you for announcing it correctly.
Boynton Beach,
I wish you would adopt me.
Florida.
A lot of people say Feaman.
I wish you could
hate
adopt me.
that.
Then I could be Damon Feaman.
Damon Feaman.
Oh, Damon Feaman.
There you go. I like
That would be cool.
You're a little old to be adopted.
He finally speaks.
Let's see. I've got 5
For
kids.
those of you who didn't hear that, that was Invisible Mike.
I think that if I were to adopt you, though, that you would be too expensive.
You think
Your
he's high
bodyguard,
maintenance?
your bodyguard is very expensive.
He doesn't need a bodyguard.
Well, I know he's 6'3" and very muscular and good looking, but still, he still needs a bodyguard.
At least one of those was accurate.
Yes.
Yeah, which one?
The 6'3".
Oh!
Did
Can we
talk-
get your picture up on
did
the
we-
screen?
talk about that before we went on the air, I think, didn't we?
Well, something like that, yeah.
Okay,
I'm
right.
not sure it was height, though.
Oh, no?
Oh.
Good.
Peter, are you of the belief that there might be a plan for a certain segment of the population to change what goes on in this country?
Yes.
Like a
Yes.
7-step plan of any sort?
Yes, you know, my book talks about the 7-step plan by Islamists, the Islamic supremacists, to actually take over the world. And
Oh.
it was actually an exhibit in the Holy Land Foundation trial. So I got this from the public records of the court,
Uh-huh.
and it outlines the Islamist plan
Where
to
is it? Do
literally,
you know where it is in the
to
book?
liberally take over the world. Here's what's really scary. The 7 steps are done in chronological
Are
order.
you gonna put them up on the screen?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And it starts in 2001
Mhm.
with the attack on the World Trade Center as the
Okay.
awakening. Step 4 is between the years 2010 and 2013, as you can see on the
That's
screen.
now. Yeah.
Yes.
And read what it
does
says.
And that is
Number 4 says toppling moderate regimes such as Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, and other Muslim states from 2010 to 2013.
So let's see, what do we have? We have Libya, we have Egypt, we have Syria. Not a moderate in the eyes of the jihadis, which means that they're secular in nature and don't want to dominate the world like Iran.
Right.
But the one I would disagree on there would be Turkey, because Turkey has, in the last several years, they've really instituted their Islamist bent.
Right, but what
true.
they did was
But when this was written,
they evolved internally without
Right, they
having
evolved
a
internally
coup,
instead of
without
they became,
having a coup.
They
Right.
became more Islamist.
So they achieved their goal in Turkey by peaceful means. And
Well, so far, I mean, if you were one of the
weird as that
thousands
sounds.
Unless you're a
jailed in
journalist.
Turkey over the last few years,
Unless
you
you're a
wouldn't think
journalist
so.
or a general.
Now,
Yeah.
right, now here's the most important part. Step 5.
Step 5.
Let's show that one. Read
Formation of a new world order between 2013 and 2016, based on an Islamic caliphate as a world power and the weakening of the United States and Israel.
Hello. Now, what's the best way, according to Marxist dogma, to weaken a country internally?
To
Two
cripple
ways.
the economy.
Well,
is a
but
big
and how do you
one.
do that? You spend money that you don't have out
Right.
of control to debase the currency,
Right.
which we're in the middle
Which
of.
we're in the middle of.
And
Our,
then
our bond ratings are
you,
down.
You
right?
values neuter the populace. In other words, you attack the Judeo-Christian ethic.
Right.
Okay, and you
Right.
promote everything that is the antithesis to the Judeo-Christian value system. What do
Right.
we see going on by our present administration? Doing both of those.
Right.
And that
Spending
weakens,
money, gay
weakens us,
marriage,
correct?
Right.
Weakens our
gayifying
culture.
the military, weakening
Well,
the
it's not
military
ju-
in the
it's not just-
process.
It's not just that.
Correct.
It's not just religious nullification. It's gender nullification, because
Correct.
now there's no such thing as a man, there's no such thing as a woman, there's no
Right.
boys, there's no girls. It's
Right.
whatever you happen to feel
Partner
like that
one,
day.
partner two.
And I want to go pee in that bathroom over there
crazy.
because that's how I identify with it.
So we have 5,000 years
Can
of
I say that
established
on the
order.
radio?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Just don't try it out on me. Sorry. So here we have
Don't pee on
5,000 years, 5,000 years of history and culture and how humans should interact, and we're going to throw it out. We're going to throw it out in one generation.
Yeah.
To me, we
Yeah.
have embarked down such a frightening and scary road. If we don't get our moral compass back, everything else we do, politically, economically, isn't going to matter. In my judgment, it starts with writing our moral compass. In the absence of that, we're really not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's biblical more than anything else.
Right.
Okay. Happy are people whose Lord is their God.
Right.
All right. And we have lost that. And for a president to say that we are not a Christian nation, that's
Right.
preposterous. This
Right.
whole country was founded on the Judeo-Christian value system. How do we know that? Look at the Declaration of Independence. We are all endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable. Now, what creator do you think the founders were talking about? Trust me, it wasn't Allah or Allah.
Oh, boy.
Okay? It was the Judeo-Christian God of the Old Testament and the New Testament. And that's the foundation of our country. We lose that, we lose this country. Our national motto, God we trust. Have we forgotten that? What God? What God were they referring to when they said, in God we trust? They were referring to Judeo-Christian God, none other. That's been the source of our strength, the source of our blessings throughout our 250 years. If we lose that, those blessings will go away and we're all in trouble. It doesn't matter what we do with the government shutdown. It doesn't matter what we do with national security. We need to get back to our Judeo-Christian roots first and foremost.
Yeah! I'm so glad you're here. I love
that in the can.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know where that
Yeah.
came from. It wasn't a prepared speech.
No,
Just
that
speaking
is
from the heart.
I'll cut that out and send it out for Christmas.
You'll
Yeah.
cut that out.
Tell
There
us
you
where
go.
this comes from.
Okay, this comes from a letter written by a jihadist in the Holy Land Foundation trial.
Which we've
because-
talked about a lot on this show.
Yeah, there was a lot of Islamic charities that were indicted for being nothing other than front organizations to raise money.
To raise money
For
for
Hamas.
For Hamas,
And-
Hezbollah,
yeah.
other terrorist organizations. And the way they did that was to raise money. Is they came up with this plan for world domination in order to help them raise money. Because Muslims would see this, they'd get excited, and then they'd donate money.
Oh, yeah, I'll give money for that.
Okay, sure, this sounds good to me.
It sounds wonderful to me.
They raised millions.
We're doing fantastic. Billions we raised.
So this is a fundraising letter.
Evidence in the largest terrorism funding case in the United States.
That's correct.
This is actual evidence.
But here's
in
the
the
scary
case.
part. There's one thing to put crazy claims in a fundraising letter, like MoveOn.org does. It's another thing to use this as a fundraising letter, but then actually see it come true.
Right.
That'll strike fear in the hearts of every American who loves this
Takbir! Takbir!
Okay, because step 6, a total confrontation between Islam and the West in 2016 to 2020.
Inshallah.
Wow. And we're going to elect Hillary Clinton in 2016? Are you kidding me?
No, we're not.
Okay, we know she's an apologist for the Islamic supremacists. And then finally in 2020, a decisive victory for Islam. The only thing I can say to that...
at the rate we're going, I don't think it's going to take that long.
Well, the only thing I can say to that is I read the last chapter of our Bible. We win.
You got sneak peek.
So there you go.
Look at that.
All right.
Look
And
at
guess
that.
what? It's not just the Christian Bible. The Christian Bible incorporates and adopts 100% of the ancient Jewish scriptures. So you can't be a Christian without standing on the shoulders of Jewish giants, which is why Jews and Christians need to unite.
That's why my shoulders hurt.
That's why you're going to be National Committeewoman. Okay? Because you're the best.
No.
Yes.
No,
okay.
no. Okay,
All right.
you win. You win. I want to have you back. Can you come back
Okay.
on Tuesday?
Tuesday?
Yeah.
Let me check. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Peter Feaman
We'll be
be back on Tuesday. What is that? October 8th?
Yes.
Tuesday, October 8th. You
we'll
absolutely,
talk.
positively don't want to miss that. On Monday, we have Karen and Billy Vaughn.
Oh, wow.
Tomorrow, we have Jumpin' Juma Freaky Friday, and Damon won't tell me what we're doing tomorrow.
Okay.
It's going to be a surprise for everybody.
All right, on Tuesday, then we'll talk more about
we wanna
public
pick this
policy
up
and
and-
biblical principles.
Yeah.
And see how public policy positions and biblical principles
See how
align
many
or
of
don't
those,
align.
Yeah, let's see how many of those
Okay.
biblical principles are like really incorporated into the philosophy and platform of the Republican Party.
Correct.
And how do we educate and reach the Christians who tend to sit out the last few elections and reach them and say, look, you know,
Correct.
if you love your Bible, then you're going to love what we have to tell you about what you need to do.
That's
to
a great
support this
teaser for
country.
next Tuesday.
All right.
So,
how much time do we have?
go.
Do we
I
have
have
any
about a
time?
minute and 45 seconds.
A minute and 45 seconds.
You want to touch on anything else?
I'm just going to say that the Republicans in Congress need to keep sending compromises to the Senate to continue to expose what the Senate is doing, which is simply refusing to negotiate, refusing to do the jobs that they were elected to do, which is to work out some way to get this government going by accommodating both sides. And the Democrats just won't do it.
I think that all our elected representatives should refuse to vote on anything except for actually a budget. I don't know why we let these people continue to get paid when they don't even do the basic due diligence of passing a budget.
The House has passed a budget, Senate to the Senate, again and again and again. And
Okay, then they
Harry
have
Reid
to. The House has
won't
to
take it up.
refuse to fund anything the Senate wants to do until they pass a
till
budget.
they pass a budget. And
That's what I think.
And the Democrats are willing to shut down the government because they're extremists. And no more
Extremists.
extremism.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Oh, 30 seconds.
So
Oh, we
Demo-
did really well. Look how fast that went by.
That was perfect.
That was a
went
great
very
show, Peter.
fast.
I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. It was
I'm
my
so
pleasure.
glad you're here. And thank you for watching and listening to TrentoVision on WNN 1470 AM. Stay tuned tomorrow, and we will be back.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure, I'm
Appreciate
sure.
it. Okay. CJ for National Committeewoman.
No way.
I like it a lot.
All right.
Not going to
All right.
happen.
Bye, everybody.
Sorry. Thank you.
See you next time.